Hey guys, how's it going? It's Danconia and welcome back to the Overwatch League Roundup 2020 Team of the Summer Showdown North America. So yesterday we took a look at the Team of the Week for the Summer Showdown for APAC, and now we're going to take a look at the North American region, which I think is much more varied than APAC and much more interesting than APAC this time around, which is something we don't say very often. Very often we say that the Overwatch is at a higher level in APAC and NA is just kind of dragging its heels a little bit, but it really stepped up during this Summer Showdown, so it's really cool to see that. But we are going to get straight into this, and fun fact, this is the 150th Overwatch League Roundup of 2020, of the 2020 season. That's bonkers. That's actually bonkers. But yeah, this is going to be super interesting. Let's start off with our supports then. Let's start off with our flex support. Not our flex support, our main support, our Lucio Brig player. My bad. But I'm going to give this to Alarm. And Alarm, obviously, we like to see Alarm on the Zen, we like to see Alarm on the Batiste, but he played a lot of Brig this week, and he was bloomin' darn good at it, as Alarm generally is. Alarm is generally very good at whatever support he plays, and I think he was really good. Now, I want to give a shout out to FD God, because we saw FD God on the Lucio for the Paris Eternal, and he was really, really good. But in my opinion, I think Alarm was more consistent. When we saw FD God move over to the Brig, he was, I don't think could be as good as Alarm could be. I think Alarm is one of the best supports in this league right now, and he showed it. He's a really consistent backbone for that Philadelphia Fusion team, and again, not sure if that Philadelphia Fusion team would be where they are without Alarm. So we're going to move on to our flex support. And this had me wondering. This one really had me wondering. We've seen a lot of good flex support play during this week. We've seen Boombox for the Philadelphia Fusion, which was nice to see, and he did well as well. I want to first of all mention Fielder of the Paris Eternal. Now, he's been edged out by someone else, but I'm really torn. I could have given it to Fielder. I'm not gonna lie. And just to know the circumstances for Fielder is just ridiculous. This guy was playing all through the night. Remember that Paris Eternal played like 8 hours straight of Overwatch. He played all through the night because he's still in Korea. He played on 200 ping. And he was fantastic. Honestly, he was. He was great against the Philadelphia Fusion. He was great all weekend. And I think that is testament to the quality that Fielder has got. And no one expected Fielder to be this good when he came into the league. And it's frightening to know what Fielder might be able to do when he's not on ping, when he's with the rest of the team. And I still can't get that picture in my head of Paris Eternal celebrating, and you just got poor Fielder and on his face cam, and he's not celebrating with them because he's not with them. And he's just like, well, I won, I guess. Oh, it's heartbreaking, but I haven't given it to Fielder. I've given it to Violet of the San Francisco Shock. Simply because I think Violet got the most value this weekend. It is close between him and Fielder. I think they were the two standout flex supports this weekend. An honourable mention can go to Kariv of the Toronto Defiant. I don't think the Toronto Defiant would have got anywhere near where they got to without Kariv. And I really... If Toronto Defiant don't improve, I really want to see a team pick up Kariv. I really, really think he deserves a team that is higher up the league, shall we say. He's a really good support, and he is arguably the best player on that Toronto Defiant roster. Obviously, we've seen them do better this week, but yeah, I wanted to mention him. But Violet gets it for me, just because he is so solid for the San Francisco Shock, and he gets that balance of healing and damage perfectly right, and it allows him to pop off while also making sure that he's not doing it to the detriment of his team. And that getting that balance is not easy a lot of the time, especially in high pressure situations. Now, we know the San Francisco Shock didn't get to the final. We know the San Francisco lost to Paris, but I don't think that was Violet's fault. That was an extremely close series between them and Paris. And on another day, it could have gone another way. But we're going to move on to our tanks. We're going to move to our off tank. And I was initially very torn between two off tanks. I'm sure you probably know which ones. Nevix, I want to give a shout out to. He was really good this weekend. Meko was decent for the Houston Outlaws as well. I'm not going to lie about that. But the two I was torn between are Hanbin and Fury, our two finalists. And I was originally going to go with Hanbin. But then I saw the stat of Fury's rock accuracy against Paris during that final. 92%. Fury had a 92% rock accuracy against Paris. I'm sorry? That is ridiculous. Accretion is not the easiest thing to hit in the world. And this might be another video at some point, but the way in which this whole meta works is the setup of the pull from Orisa, the accretion from Sigma, and then the extra damage put in by the Genji, etc. And to me, when I was looking at it, I was like, well, this is pairing up really well for the Paris Eternal. With Ben Best and Hanbin, they're setting this up really well, and this is why they're doing so well. But Fury was doing it really well as well, and he was hitting his rocks time after time after time. And accretion is such a powerful ability in shutting down Genjis. You can shut down all sorts with accretion. It can shut down Genji's ult so well. And especially if your Brig misses the stun, or your Brig isn't in a position to get a stun, or even if your Brig is dead for some reason, it can turn a fight. And I think, honestly, this weekend we have seen the best play Fury has ever had on Sigma. And we know Fury is a great, great D.Va player. We always have known that. But I believe Fury also ate a few blizzards, which is nothing unusual for Fury, let's be honest. But I've always thought his Sigma couldn't live up to his D.Va. And maybe it still can. But this is definitely an example of the fact that Fury is getting so much better on this Sigma. And he was toe-to-toe with Hanbin, and he may even have been better than Hanbin. It was a very close duel, but that 92% accretion accuracy is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. And Fury deserves that spot, in my opinion. He really deserves that spot. But Hanbin is a very good off-tank, and his accretion setup with Ben Best was so good. And talking of Ben Best, we're going to the main tank, and I am going to give it to Ben Best. Now, I want to give a mention to Sado. I think Sado was good. Smurf was consistent as always for the San Francisco Shock. I want to give a mention to Hydration of the Houston Outlaws, really coming into that main tank role now. He's really getting into it. He's really starting to click with Meko. And I think we saw that this week as they get the win over the Florida Mayhem, etc, etc, etc. There have been a lot of main tanks are very consistent, but Ben Best, we had a lot of questions about Ben Best at the start of the season. Why have Paris Eternal held on to him? No Smite, but they brought in No Smite, but really he's not that much better than Ben Best. Ben Best didn't have a massive season for Paris Eternal in their first season in the league last year. And we were all like, well, is he good enough? Is he good enough to go alongside the likes of XZ and Sparkle and Hanbin, now Fielder obviously as well? And he's been slowly getting better and getting better and getting better. And I think we've seen this come to a climax this weekend in the NA Showdown, because Ben Best, he went toe-to-toe to Sado and said, nah, you ain't getting the best of me. And Ben Best honestly now is starting to look like one of the best main tanks in North America. Now, is he the best main tank? Probably not. But this week, he was really, really good. His synergy with Hanbin is phenomenal. And when you consider that's South Korean and French, that's one of the combos we have not seen in this league until now. And the communication really must be clicking for the Paris Eternal. And it is great stuff to see. And I wanna look into it at some point. But the Halt with the accretion, with the damage, sometimes there's a dash through from the Genji, normally Sparkle obviously. It's so lethal. And Paris Eternal were absolutely on point with these combos. A lot during the entire series and during the entire weekend. And it was a major contribution to to how the Paris Eternal got that win. And it's all down to having a fantastic main tank. And that's why I've given it to Ben Best. But we're moving on to our DPS, and I'm sure a lot of people are gonna love this. So we've got our projectile DPS player, we've got our flex DPS player. Who do you think it is? Who do you think it is? There's two people here. It's EQO and Sparkle. Now, it would be very easy for me to give it to Sparkle, wouldn't it? Considering all those blades he gets in that, and Sparkle is fantastic, but I'm giving it to EQO. EQO got one of the most, well, probably the biggest clutches in Overwatch history on Rialto. He killed more players than are actually on the Paris Eternals roster. He killed 7 in that fight to get that first point of Rialto. Yes, of course, it ends up in the Philly Fusion losing, but that is bonkers. That is bonkers. And remember, for a lot of that, he was half health as well. And to have a player that can clutch like that is fantastic. Now, we're not just giving it to him because he got that massive clutch on Rialto. He was perfect, pretty much, all weekend. There were, especially at the end against Paris Eternal, right at the end of Rialto, there were some questionable blade, but I think that was more desperation, looking at that they were going to lose. And I think the pressure started to get to not just EQO, but a lot of them. But I can't take away anything from EQO this weekend. He's been phenomenal. He's been absolutely phenomenal in that Genji. He really, really has. And it's nice to see EQO back and popping off. He's a great, great player. And we've all been talking about Sparkle. And Sparkle clutched big time against the San Francisco Shock. We can't argue about that. And Sparkle, you're right up there, buddy. But EQO, he threw down the gauntlet against the person that a lot of people have put as the best Genji in the Overwatch League. And he said, no, I am the best Genji. That is my title. And he did it. I can't argue with it. EQO. Bonkers, man. But hit scan is where it gets more difficult. Because there's actually been a lot of pleasing hit scan play this weekend from North American region. Ans of the San Francisco Shock, very good as ever. Ans is actually having a great season for the San Francisco Shock. I want to mention two names that are a little bit lower down. Logix is the first one. Oh, I want to mention Agilities in the Genji role as well, because Agilities really stepped up for the Toronto Defiant. But I can't put him in over EQO, I just can't. But Logix of the Toronto Defiant, he really stepped up this weekend. Had a lot of clutch fights for the Toronto Defiant. Again, they probably wouldn't have got as far as they were without Logix, because I haven't seen Logix and Agilities play this well probably since the inaugural season, if that. Agilities has been really good in the past. And finally, Logix has been really, really good in the past. And finally, this weekend, we got to see a little bit of that old Logix. And that's what I wanted to mention about him. But I had two names that were fighting it out for this. Xe, quite obviously, and Linksa. So, I know Carpe is probably the name that is missing here. But Carpe, he wasn't getting as much done as Xe. So that's why Carpe isn't there. And I feel sorry for Carpe. He's still a great player. And that title still eludes him, doesn't it? That title still eludes him. But Linksa was fantastic for the Houston Outlaws this weekend. Especially against the Florida Mayhem. But there is a reason I haven't chosen Linksa. So we have to talk about Xe now. Xe, he went away with these medical issues. Paris Eternal plodded their way through the season. He's back now, alongside Sparkle. And for weeks, we've been seeing Sparkle pop off like a madman. And Xe's been plugging away in the background. But Xe comes in and clutches at times for this Paris Eternal squad. No more than what we saw in the Philadelphia Fusion game. Take your mind back, if you watched it, and just picture that Xe flank, which gets 2 picks, just before EQO goes absolutely massive. And that's the bonkers sort of thing that XE was doing all weekend long. I think he was one of the best hit scans, if not the best hit scan in the entire region. I mean, he could go toe-to-toe with ANS and whatever, but I still think XE got the most value out of anyone. Now, Linksa was very close to this, but why have I given it to XE over Linksa? This is the reason. XE was being not punished, he was being not focused either, that's the wrong way, but he was being pressured out by the Philadelphia Fusion. And he was still getting the value even though he was being pressured at times. Linksa, however, the Florida Mayhem heavily ignored Linksa and tried to win the ground fight. And it didn't work. Linksa was given free roam to do whatever he wants. And you give even a decent Widowmaker in this league, or Ashe even as well, you give an Ashe or Widowmaker in this league, a decent one, that sort of room, that sort of free will, they will punish you. And they will punish you big time. So, the reason it's gone to XE is because he did it under more pressure and he didn't get as much space as Linksa did. I'm not taking anything away from Linksa. Linksa was one of the best, if not the best players for Houston Outlaws this weekend. And he, in another week, would have got it. But XE was just too good for me to leave out. So, that means my North American Team of the Week for the Summer Showdown will be Alarm, Violet, Fury, Bembest, EQO, and XE. And there's probably going to be a big old debate about it. I'm not going to lie. But this is my opinion. Please don't get me wrong in saying, this is the law, this is the Team of the Week that must be. That's never been the case. This is my opinion, this is my selection for Team of the Week. You guys can have your own selection in the comments, and we can have a talk about it. And in the Discord, if you want to be part of the Discord, which is linked in the description below. But this is my opinion and always has been. And I know there's going to be some controversial. I just got this feeling that this is going to be controversial, including the APAC one, because there's so many Guangzhou Charge players. But it's been a crazy weekend. I don't think we can deny that. The Overwatch League is going on a break for a week. And there'll be content, don't worry about it. We'll make some content, we'll get through it. But then we will come back with the previews ahead of the run-in to the community countdown, I think they're calling it, or something like that. And then there, obviously, after that we have 2 weeks, and then we're looking right into playoffs. After that 2 weeks, we will know who will be playing teams, who will be playoff teams, and yeah, it's a very important time coming up for a lot of teams. They've got to get the results, otherwise they're going to find themselves slipping, and they'll find play-ins or playoffs just slipping through their fingers ever so agonizingly. But it's going to be super interesting coming up. But I am going to leave it here for now. So thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you'd like to give it a like, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you in the next video. See you then.